What's good? What's good? Welcome, 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 family. You know what to do. Share and tag and share. You are watching Spiritual Awakening with me, Dr. A.G. Green Sr. I am so excited, as always, to be with you. Even if you're watching us in replay, I want you to know I consider it a distinct honor and privilege to be with you, Almighty. I just blessed you and magnify you and glorify you for this moment that I believe has been preordained and pre-designed. Guide us, lead us. Let truth emerge. Let these words of truth resonate in our hearts. And as it resonates, let it change, transform, renew, restore, remind, and even elevate us. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Yeshua's name. In his way, his name, his power and consciousness. It is so and so it is. Tag and share, family. Tag and share. Share and tag. Blessings to you, and you on this evening. Blessings to all of you. I am honored and privileged to be with you. That's it. Come on in to this digital space, this digital assembly, whatever time of day it is that you are watching me right now. I am again honored that you are with me in this moment. We're getting ready to get into it in just a few minutes. Just want to remind you, if I didn't even put up let me put it up here. Just want to remind you all to follow us, stay connected with us on the various social media networks that are at the bottom of your screen. If you haven't liked this page, please like and sign up for the alert notifications. That's the bell symbol. You can also do that on YouTube as well. And of course, follow me on TikTok and Instagram at AG Green Now on all of those social media networks. And of course, we also have a wonderful, beloved Patreon community that we want you to connect with us on as well. The higher tiers get inside information. And of course, there's also a level for people to come in free, check us out, and then connect with our spiritual community there on Patreon. We've got wonderful things that's brewing as we are developing that community. Patreon.com/AG Green Now. That's patreon.com/AG Green Now. Let me see if I can find it. There it is. You can search it on the web, or you can download the Patreon app and just simply search AG Green Now, and a header will come up that says Revolution Inc. That is the actual name of the spiritual community. All right. Glad to be with everyone here again on today. Want you to as I always like to do, remind you you're made in the image and likeness of a almighty divine spiritual being. You are a divine species. Therefore, you are powerful. So I want you to own the power. I want you to know the power. I want you to be the power. I want you to type it in the comment section. I am powerful. Come on, type it in the comment section. I am powerful. I am powerful. Type it in the comment section. I am powerful. I am powerful. Type in the comment section. I am powerful. Matter of fact, as you're typing it, declare it and decree it. Speak it out of your mouth. I am powerful. Know the power. Express the power. You are the power. I am powerful. I am powerful. Own it. Own it. Let it move through you. Let it have its way inside of you. Release it. Share it with those around you. And more importantly, exercise it on behalf of yourself. You are great by permission of the Almighty God. I'm going to say it again. You are great by permission of the Almighty God. And I am so excited and delighted that you are knowing or beginning to know that, to embrace that, to live that, and walk in that. I want to continue with part 2 on how to deal with toxic families. And I am appreciative of some feedback that I received from the first installment. And if you didn't see the first installment, make sure that you go back down the timeline and watch that video in its entirety and share it with somebody you know who might be challenged with toxicity. And of course, you might want to take notes, so forth and so on. But I've got something special. I've got a special package prepared for you. By the time we finish this series, we should have one more after this one, unless I get sidetracked in my presentation today. We should have more on next week for you, because we're going to give you some steps, some tips. Right now, we're covering symptoms and symptomology, but we're going to give you some steps and tips. Okay, some steps and tips on how to deal with this toxicity. I'll start some of that today toward the end of the presentation. All right. I'm going to start again by familiarizing or refamiliarizing you with a few statistics. In a poll that was done by Forbes magazine, it said 70 to 80% of Americans considered their families to be dysfunctional. Dysfunctional. Joan Bradshaw said 96% of families to some degree are dysfunctional. From Family Therapy Systems Advocate. This subject is relevant again because nobody is excused from being touched by toxicity, which is also known in many circles as dysfunction or a dysfunctional family. Everybody, to some extent and some degree, is touched and impacted by it. No matter what they say to you, they have been impacted by toxicity in some kind of way. It's just the truth. It's just the way that it is. So I want to spend some time trying to, or not just trying to, but liberating those who want to be liberated, empowering those who desire to be empowered. I want to take this opportunity to strengthen those who desire to be strengthened. Now, I'm showing you again, just giving you a recap, that the families that I'm mentioning here on screen from the Bible are dysfunctional families. They are really toxic families. Now, I'm giving you these illustrations because I just really want to work on this notion, this philosophy, this theology, this false belief that if you love God or you're religious or a Christian or whatever, that you're not capable of being toxic and dysfunctional. And it is simply not true. When people encounter God, most of them encounter the Almighty initially with baggage. And some of them pick up baggage or toxicity along the way. That's right. Don't forget the likes and hearts. It has a positive impact on the algorithm. So I want you to understand that just as in scripture, there was toxicity in families. Now, quickly touch on each of these families again. I want you to know that in the modern day church, among modern day Christians and whatever faith you are, there's toxicity there too. I want you to understand that your pastor could be toxic and dysfunctional. I want you to understand that the quorum of leaders in your church can be toxic and dysfunctional. The choir leader in the choir can be toxic and dysfunctional. The Sunday school teacher can be toxic and dysfunctional. The church bus driver can be toxic and dysfunctional. The teachers who teach the youth in church can be toxic and dysfunctional. Now, you might not want to admit it or not in terms of your own personal toxicity, but you have recognized, and I have recognized, that many times people are leaving churches because they're encountering toxic people. I hope y'all not too quiet up in here. But the person that, angered you, the person that disappointed you, or the person that did whatever they did against you to create church hurt, many times church hurt comes from toxic, dysfunctional people. I'm going to say it again. Many times church hurt is inflicted by toxic, dysfunctional people. So toxicity is all around you, whether you recognize it or not. Cain and Abel were toxic brothers. Toxic brothers. All right. Cain was jealous of Abel and slew him. Joseph's brothers, that whole family clan, Israel, who was the father formerly known as Jacob, that we pronounce as Jacob, and his sons were dysfunctional. The sons are the ones who created a plot against Joseph, sold him into slavery. David and Absalom were dysfunctional. David didn't even avenge his own daughter when she was raped by a half brother. Absalom tried to usurp or take his father's throne. If that's not toxic and dysfunctional, I don't know what is. Jacob and Esau, or Jacob and Esau, dysfunctional, excuse me. And as we shared with you the story on last week, the toxicity that existed, the father preferred the eldest, which was Esau. The mother, Rebecca, preferred the youngest, which was Jacob, whom we pronounce as Jacob. Tension was created, jealousy was created, a rift existed in that family for years and years and years. And then, of course, Lot and his daughters were toxic and dysfunctional people. I shared with you last week how, as they escaped the city, according to what we read in the book of Genesis, Lot's wife turned around and looked, was petrified in the form of a pillar of salt. And his daughters decided, because the wife died, that they were going to get him drunk and both get pregnant so they could continue his lineage. It was incest. If that's not toxicity, y'all tell me what your definition of toxicity is. All right. So toxicity is real and toxicity exists. I want you to type it in the comment section real quickly. Toxicity is real. Type that in the comment section for me. Toxicity is real. I'm going to say, I want you to type it. Toxicity is real. And as soon as people own it, I don't care how many tongues you talk in, tongues don't eradicate toxicity. Fast do not get rid of toxicity. Good, strong messages do not get rid of toxicity. For the most part, falling out on the ground and being slain in the spirit does not get rid of toxicity. Or is there a small percentage of people who were made whole in the depths of their soul and instantly attain a release from toxicity? A very small percentage, because with God all things are possible. With the Almighty all things are possible. But for the most part, that won't happen to the average person. Okay, so you can do all these things. You can try all these things, and these things, of course, can contribute to healing and wholeness. But unless you know how to address dysfunction and toxicity, you will continue to carry it, maintain it, and perpetuate it. All right? You will carry it, maintain it, meaning that you will feed it and nurture it, and then you will perpetuate it. Let's look at a few diagrams. The first, 3 we looked at last week, and then we're going to continue. All right. Um, some of the signs, I'm giving you signs now. And as I said, toward the end of this presentation, I'll start giving you some solutions. I'm going to start with the first set of solutions a little bit later. But one of the signs that you are part of a toxic family or you're dealing with a toxic person is that you don't like being around them. You don't like being around them. You dread being around them. Your interactions leave you feeling weak, disheveled, or as the young folk would say, some kind of way. Sometimes you might even consider worrying about your own safety, personal safety. Some of you have considered your own emotional safety and sanity when you're around these toxic folks. You feel unsettled being in the same room, and they guilt you during conversations. And last but not least, the way they treat you and others is very unsettling. I covered that last week. The next thing we covered was you have consistent blow-ups when you're dealing with these toxic folks. They take everything you say personally. Somebody else can say something and they seem to let it slide or ride. When you say something, it's like it blows up. The least thing you say that you didn't mean any harm by what you said. Sometimes you were joking. Sometimes you said what somebody else just said 10 minutes prior to that, but they jump all down your throat for it. They make personal attacks on your character during arguments. This is another thing we need to look out for. There can't be a clean, fair argument. They're constantly attacking things like your intelligence, your looks, maybe your weight, maybe something that you're challenged with, or constantly nitpicking at maybe mistakes and errors you made. The next thing they do is you leave your arguments feeling drained and manipulated. Drained and manipulated. Thank you for the likes and hearts. When you're dealing with toxic people, yes, it is draining. You expend a lot of energy when you are conversing and conversating with these people. Have you ever been in the presence of people who, and when I say toxic, sometimes the toxicity is pessimism. Sometimes the toxicity is just a poor state of being or a poor state of consciousness. Sometimes the toxicity is a way of thinking that's so unproductive, that's so negative, that's so defeatist. You feel drained. You also feel like you're walking around grenades. When you're around them, you feel like you have to tiptoe. You realize the slightest thing you could say or do could set them off. The next symptom is you're noticing signs of gaslighting. Gaslighting is manipulating. These blow-ups will prompt these toxic people to try and use whatever they can to manipulate you. They will make up things to make you look guilty. They will create and fabricate stories, or they will um, embellish or exaggerate things just to try and manipulate you, try and gaslight you or manipulate you to the point where you start second guessing yourself. You start questioning your own self-confidence. You start questioning your own self-worth. This is what gaslighting or the objective of gaslighting is. And of course, your fights are a result of personal issues and not misunderstanding. So again, sometimes you think, well, they heard you wrong or they just took it the wrong way. No, sometimes they didn't take it the wrong way. It's personal. They just got an issue with you. Hear me real clearly. This person that's toxic could be your mama. This person that's toxic could be your daddy. This person that's toxic could be your brother, your sister. It could be an uncle or an aunt. It could be a cousin. Am I making any sense? It could be an uncle or an aunt, an aunt or an uncle, or close friends. All right. Toxicity takes all shapes and forms. And let me share this with you real quickly. People are not born toxic. Now, they could be born with toxins in their system if their, mother was a drug addict or something like that. That's not what I'm talking about. you learn toxicity. That means the family unit that you're a part of or were born into was most likely toxic or dysfunctional. Okay. And I'm going to say this again. I need to repeat this. Toxicity doesn't leave 99% of people when they repent. Toxicity doesn't leave 99% of people because they get prayer. We got a whole bunch of toxic folk operating in our churches, synagogues, whatever religion they're a part of. This is why this teaching is necessary. And the word is going forth and the truth is being propagated, but it's landing on hard, toxic, contaminated soil. That's why it's not profiting them. That's why it's not growing. That's why it can take no root in them. The soil of their heart is dysfunctional. The soil of their heart is toxic. All right. So you have consistent blow ups in terms of dealing with these people. And then the last one we covered last week was this one. They don't respect your beliefs. They don't respect your beliefs. They voice their negative opinion about you sometimes publicly to other family members. Sometimes they'll go on social media and clown you. When you've asked them to respect your beliefs, they decline. It's like they always mock or are hypercritical. This sounds like religious folk to me. You feel a sense of aggression beyond annoyance. Sometimes you feel that you are, are feeling aggression within because of these attacks. And then sometimes it feels like aggression. There's like a heightened an extra level of energy that they seem to be aiming at you when they're communicating with you. The next thing, and I left this in here on purpose. And remember, I took these points from Women's Health Magazine, 30 Signs You Have a Toxic Family Members. They don't accept your sexuality or your gender identity. Now, we know Christians and people of faith, we have our opinions about that. But what I want to say is you can disagree without pulverizing people. You can disagree without dismantling people. You can disagree without demeaning and degrading people. You can disagree without stepping on folk. I have found out that the folks who are supposed to have the most love are the ones who are the most intolerant when things come into their world that they disagree with. That's a form of toxicity. The next thing is the family member displays active contempt for you. Yes, it seems like these people are just contemptuous. You can't understand it. You don't know what you've done. Sometimes you're soul searching. Some of you all who are watching me, you're soul searching. I should have asked this earlier. Can you see and hear me well? Let me know if you can see and hear me well. You're soul searching. Like, what did I do other than make some mistakes in life? What did I do other than being born? What did I do other than, making some errors like other people do? Or what did I do, that caused you to treat me the way you're treating me? Thank you for the feedback. Okay. The next thing is they don't accept your partner who is of a different race or religion. Lord have mercy. Don't even get into that. Toxic people take it to heart like you could kill God with your actions and like you killed them with your actions, to the extent that if you marry somebody they don't approve of, then that toxicity will come to the surface in them. All right. So these are the first three sets of signs. And I think there are probably 18, 19, 20 in the first two that we covered. Now we're going to get into new stuff tonight. The next symptom is they make themselves the priority. They make themselves the priority. All right. Let's go. The toxic family member repeatedly sabotages plans. I kind of chuckled when I said that. In other words, whatever it is you set out to do, and I don't want to say whatever it is, but there are some things that you set out to do, they want to find a way, if it doesn't involve them, if they can't control it, to sabotage it. All right. Do you realize that you can't always share your successes with your toxic family member, your toxic lover, your toxic spouse? Do you realize that sometimes, whether it's through prayer, whether it's through conversation, or whether it's through other schemes, they want to sabotage your plans? They hope that you can't take that trip. They hope that the promotion falls through. They hope, watch this, that you cannot advance without them. They hope that you can't rise above them. They hope that the thing that you are believing for, the thing you're trying to acquire, the thing you're trying to manifest, the thing you're trying to bring into your life fails. And sometimes they will use schemes to try and sabotage your growth, your development, and your success. They make themselves the priority. They have an inability to consider others. Always comes at the cost of your needs. Their inability to consider others always comes at the cost of your needs. You find yourself always sacrificing and giving. The next thing is you are generally disappointed by your family's response to their behavior. You are generally disappointed by your family's response to their behavior. So they're acting, but don't act like they don't know what they're doing. They're toxic, demonstrating toxicity, doing toxicity, filled with toxicity and dysfunction and vitriol and poison, but act like they don't know it. When you bring it to their attention, they try and deflect it. I want you to type in the comment section, deflect. Type the word deflect in the comment section. Type the word deflect in the comment section. When you do bring things to their attention, it's like it's not a big deal. And when you do bring things to their attention, watch this, they deflect to the point that many times they try and point out flaws in your life so they won't have to own the flaws in their own lives. Have you ever seen that? You called out a person on the carpet, or you called a person out for how they treated you, and they go back last year, they go back to 2 years ago. What the heck that's got to do with now? What you just did to me, or what you've been doing to me for the last 6 months, 6 years, 60 years. They always have an excuse, always have a way, in their response. And it's disappointing. It's very disappointing when you're trying to improve a relationship by letting people know how they've hurt you, so forth and so on. And instead of them saying, let me, pausing to hear you out, number one, they're forming a defense while you're talking. Number two, they've already decided in their mind how they're going to attack you, how they're going to counteract you, because they don't ever intend to own up to their own faults. It's going to be always you or somebody else. The next thing is you find yourself doing things just to get approval or attention from them. This seems oxymoronic, but it's very counterproductive, but it's also very real. The very one that is mistreating you, listen to me, many times the very ones that have ganged up on you until you are delivered, until you find wholeness, until you find clarity and gain a better perspective, until you get to that point, many times the ones that are persecuting you, the ones that are guilty of these symptoms that I shared with you, are the very same ones you're trying to get approval from. Oh my Lord, am I making any sense here tonight? All right. The next thing is they rarely say thank you, even though you're always making sacrifices for them. Listen, I have dealt with numerous people, even in a counseling situation and sometimes in a personal situation, who are bending over their back. Y'all excuse my figure of expression, but they're bending over their back. They're bending their backs over, or bending over, so far to kiss somebody else's behind. But they get no thank you for it. They get no thank you for it. It's like whatever you do is not good enough. It's like there's this sense of entitlement, like you're supposed to give your paycheck. when they need it. It's like you're supposed to come running when they call. It's like you're supposed to drop everything. Like you don't have a family, like you don't have obligations. And listen to me. And when you do it, you can't even get a thank you. The oldest child can get a thank you. The other folks can get a thank you. Other people get a thank you. The stranger in the hospital gets a thank you for attending to them, but you don't get a thank you. And some of y'all, when you get it, it's you can tell it's not from the heart. You can tell it's artificial. You can tell that it's forced. Oh my goodness! Mm, mm, mm. Help me! Help me! Help me! They rarely say thank you, and many times when they do, it's reluctant, or it's like it's got to accumulate before they can give you some thank you points. The next thing is, as it relates to they make themselves a priority, they're never held accountable for their actions. Oh my goodness. They are never held accountable for their actions. Now listen to me real clearly. Listen to me real clearly. Just give me a yes or no. Have you ever seen in this life, this is not an indicting you or your family, but have you ever encountered somebody in this life who seems to be able to do whatever they want to do, and nobody close to them holds them accountable? Say yes or no if you've ever witnessed that before. Say yes or no if you've ever witnessed that before. I mean, they raised 10 levels of hell. 10 levels of hell, cussing folk out. I I mean, they trifling, they stingy. You hear what I'm saying? Uh, they are shady. They are suspect. Are you hearing me? Sometimes they are rotten to the core, but nobody wants to hold them accountable. Sometimes you're in a room and you'll see so and so is cussing out one person, coming after one person all night long. Your sisters and brothers don't say nothing. Their brothers and sisters, which would be your uncles and aunts, don't say nothing. The cousins don't say nothing. Come on now. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. You know I'm telling the truth. It's like they're never held accountable. They're never held accountable because people either want to be in their good graces, be on their side, or not get involved. Am I making any sense to anybody here tonight? So some of you all have dealt with people who are not being held accountable for their actions. And let me tell you something. Again, this will impact your faith. Will impact your psychological state of mind and psychological state of being. Next week, well, maybe tonight, probably tonight, I'm going to give you 7 things or 7 ways a person is negatively impacted psychologically by toxicity and dysfunction. So it has impacted people in ways many times they don't realize that it has. Okay. Let's get on to the next one. Let's see here. I'm going to make sure I still got that open. Yes, I do. All right. Very good. They're abusive. They're abusive. My goodness. They're abusive. They're abusive. Watch this. They bully or harass you. Let me tell you something. There people who are typically toxic are known bullies. Now, let me tell you something about bullies that most of you already know. If a child is a bully, it's typically because they're being bullied at home or feel bullied at home. So toxic people typically have been bullied before by other toxic people. It is a part of them. So they think they have to carry on through their toxicity, this bully, harassing type behavior. Sometimes it's passive aggressive. Other times it's more aggressive, or it seems to be predominantly aggressive. Sometimes these people have physically attacked you or hurt someone you love because they're toxic. Other times you have received both physical and verbal threats from them. Hear me real clearly. Physical and verbal threats. It doesn't always have to be physical, although in many cases, toxic people have somehow, some way uh, seen physicality or seen an altercation, a physical altercation or a fight break out because this person is constantly, and listen to me real clearly when I talk about uh, physical and verbal threats. When a person, if a person is putting their finger in your face, did you hear what I said? That's a form of a physical threat. If a person is putting their finger in your chest while they're talking to you and telling you what they're going to do, putting their finger on your head, pushing your shoulders, stepping into your private space and getting face to face with you, that's a threat. They are a perceived threat. And although they may not have laid hands on you physically, just being in your face, cussing you out, they are verbally abusing you and they are giving off the vibe like I'll physically beat you too. Hear me. This is not stuff I'm talking about people have experienced just in their childhood. I'm talking about grown people. I'm talking to you like right now. Some of y'all have experienced this from your spouses. Some of you have experienced this from your mothers and fathers. Some of you have experienced this from your brothers and sisters, your uncles and your aunts. The next thing is their family member or these toxic people are extremely controlling and hyper critical, which means they are excessively critical. I want you to type the word controlling in the comment section. Type the word controlling in the comment section. Now, toxic people are wounded people. And I have discovered that many wounded people, in order to protect their hearts and protect their own interests, they become controlling. They become controlling. So, for example, a toxic man, I'm going to use a man as an example, a toxic man who may have uh, had a lot of toxic relationships. Say this toxic man grew up in a toxic family and had a lot of toxic relationships with women where they cheated on him and, degraded him and emasculated him and all these other kinds of things that they did. That man got through numerous relationships, finally found a relationship that seems to be solid and good. But guess what that man is most likely going to do to protect his heart? He's going to try and control the next woman he's with. This is how self-preservation kicks in. This is how he tries to ensure his happiness. Now, women do this a lot too. You can't go to the store without calling and texting. That's a form of control. They got you on the time clock. That's a form of control and manipulation. If you're 5 minutes late, then there's attitude. That's a form of control. It's like operant conditioning. If you do what I tell you to do, you get rewarded. If you don't do what I tell you to do, then you get punishment. Am I making any sense? Anytime you don't do anything that is in alignment with their expectations, the way they control you is by holding back something from you that they know you like, they know you desire, they know you appreciate. For example, if you're a person who loves affection and desires affection, and they know that a controlling person is going to withdraw emotional support purposely to control you, to elicit the response they want out of you. My God. I don't see no likes and hearts. I don't know. Am I talking good? Am I making any sense? So this family member is extremely controlling. They control the parties. They control what happens at the family functions. They control what happens in the house. They try and control your movements. They try and control your interactions. They try and control your thinking. They try and control your logic. They try and control your belief system. Watch this. You grown. They try and control how you raise your children. You grown. They try and control who you date. You grown. And it's not always in the interest of trying to help you. It's in the interest of them being so toxic that they feel like they need to control you to keep you in line. So if they ever need or desire something from you, you're in the place they want you to be to get what they want out of you. Help me, help me, help me, help me. They are hypercritical. Toxic people are hypercritical. And our churches are filled with toxic people. That's the reason why the gossip mill is so strong amongst organizations. It's toxicity. It's unhappy people. I've been saying this for years. Unhappy people make unhappy members. It don't make a difference how high the spirit is and how many prophecies they got. If they're toxic, when that feeling wears off, they're still toxic. They're still unhappy. They're going to gossip. They're going to be in everybody's business. They're going to run everybody down. They're going to be here, there, and the other because they're toxic and dysfunctional. So they are hypercritical. Hypercritical, always criticizing something, whether it's the weather, whether it's the job, whether it's they didn't like your tone when you talked to them, whether you got off the phone 5 minutes earlier than normal, whether it's the makeup you put on, the dress you wore, the slacks you wore that day, how your children look. Come on now, you need to hear what I'm saying. Many times toxic people are criticizing you or hypercritical again, because this gives them a form of self-gratification, power, and control. But it's all they know. Toxic people have little to no respect for boundaries or personal space. In other words, they encroach all the time in your business. They encroach all the time on your life. Sometimes if they can't get an answer directly from you, they'll call 10 other people just to find out what's going on in your house. They'll call 10 other people, your siblings, just to find out if you did exactly, what they told you to do. Did so-and-so mention anything that we talked about? Did so-and-so mention what I told them to do? Did so-and-so get that check yet? Oh, you hear what I'm saying? Hypercritical. And what happens is, in this hypercriticalness, instead of being able to give you praise, they always seem to give you criticism. There always seems to be an accusatory tone with them. There always seems to be a tone of sarcasm or cynicism that comes from these people, or a tone, watch this, of doubt and unbelief as it relates to you. I know I just hit somebody's road there. Woo hoo 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 hoo. But they have little to no respect for boundaries or personal space. It's like your life is their life. It's like they feel like they have the liberty, watch this, to say what they want to say whenever they want to say it, no matter how it's said. There's a text in the book that talks about parents not provoking their children to wrath. Sometimes people forget that text when they want to talk about the other text about children submitting to, and obeying and all this other kind of stuff, but they don't want to talk about how provocative they are. All right. Toxic people have little to no boundaries or respect for personal space. And then last but not least, with this point, everyone breathes easier when this family member is absent, or when that toxic or dysfunctional person is absent. Lord have mercy. In other words, some of y'all, it's sad to say, if this toxic person is a parent, some of y'all glad they didn't show up at the family function. You glad they couldn't make the Christmas thing, or you glad they had to leave early. You glad they couldn't stay as long as they wanted to stay. You feel a sense of relief. You're like, oh, thank you, Lord. Oh, thank you. Oh, I feel so, yes, you just feel lighter. Some of y'all want to turn cartwheels and run flips. It's just like, it's a high when they couldn't make it. It's a high if, they can only steal. Oh, you got to go, huh? Yeah, I got to go. You jumping on the inside, turning flips. Woo! Y'all know I'm telling the truth. You know I'm telling the truth. I mean, you are just so grateful. As soon as you realize they leaving, sometimes you try and help them. Oh, can I get your coat? Was that something I can do for you? Get that car started. Hey, make sure so-and-so got all the food she want to take with her. You breathe easier. And like I said, these toxic people, sad to say, it could be parents, it could be siblings, it could be uncles, it could be aunts, it could be anybody in this orbit of your personal life. Anybody in this orbit of your personal life. Okay. Now, before I give you some ways to deal with toxic people and toxic family, how y'all enjoying this thus far? Talk back to me. How you enjoying this thus far? Tell me how you're doing thus far. How you enjoying this thus far? Is it making sense for you? Is it making sense to you? Tell me how you're enjoying this thus far. I want to make sure. Is it making sense? Look like my screen went black. Can you still see me? Well, I can still see that I'm visible. Okay. Hold on just a second here. I'm going to have to do something different. I know what to do. Okay. You can still see me. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. So what I'm getting ready to do is I'm getting ready to cover right quick because I want you to know the symptomology in your own life. It's important that you know the symptomology in your own life. And so I'm getting ready to share with you right quick 7 ways people are impacted by toxic families or people. 7 ways people are impacted by toxic families or people. All right? Point number 1. Emotional and psychological damage. Emotional and psychological damage. So toxic family members often engage in manipulation, criticism, and emotional abuse, leading to feelings of unworthiness and self-doubt. This constant negativity can severely impact your mental health. It can cause anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. As Dr. Steve Maraboli notes, poisonous relationships can alter our perception. You can spend many years thinking you're worthless, but you're not worthless. You're underappreciated. End quote. Emotional and psychological damage. So, in other words, some of you all might be dealing with anxiety. You might be dealing with depression. You might be dealing with low self-esteem. You might not have a good self-image, low self-worth. Do you know many times where that comes from? That comes from toxic people. That comes from toxic people who may have raised you. That comes from toxic people you may have been in relationships with. They inflicted or you sustain emotional and psychological damage. Wow. I don't see no likes and hearts. Of course, I can't see them right now anyway. This is powerful. Number 2, physical health issues. Physical health issues. These are ways people are impacted by toxic families or people. Chronic stress from toxic relationships can manifest in physical symptoms. You can have like headaches, digestive issues, a weakened immune system, meaning that you're vulnerable to sickness, you're vulnerable to colds, you're vulnerable to the flu, all this other stuff that's going around. Seems you always catch it. All right. The ongoing stress from dealing with toxic family dynamics can also lead to more severe health problems, including cardiovascular disease. All of this from dealing with being around and connected to toxic people. Wow, this is, Lord have mercy. And you go into church and in the prayer line sometimes for physical issues, and the physical issues are not so much a result of what you ate or even your genetics. Sometimes it's simply a result of growing up in toxicity or living with toxic people or being married to a toxic joker. Number 3, difficulty in forming healthy relationships. Let me check one of my settings here. I don't like the way I'm looking here. Difficulty forming healthy relationships. I might have to stop in just a few minutes. Let me break that down for you. Growing up in a toxic environment can skew one's understanding of healthy relationships. Individuals might struggle with trust issues, fear of intimacy, or may inadvertently replicate toxic patterns in their own relationships. In a toxic family, love is masked by manipulation and emotional abuse, highlighting the distortion of what healthy love look like or looks like. All right, difficulty forming healthy relationships. Can I spend a couple of minutes on that? I don't want to go over time tonight. Let me look at my clock. I still got maybe 10 or 15 more minutes. I want to spend some time on this right quick. Can I spend some time on this right quick? These are the ways people are impacted by toxic families or toxic people. Okay. Difficulty in forming healthy relationships. Wow. Wow. Many times people can't trust or don't trust because they've trusted somebody who was toxic and they hurt them, they burned them, they wounded them. Some of you have given your spirit, soul, and body to the wrong people. Some of you all, even in your own families, you've given your love and allegiance to people who have spit on you and stepped on you because they were too toxic to appreciate you for who you were and what you are. And as a result of that, you create walls. You enclose yourself in castles and fortresses, all in the interest of trying to make sure that your heart doesn't fail, not your physical heart, but I'm talking about the heart of your emotions, the heart of your desires, the heart of your thoughts, the heart where you feel. This spills over. Toxic families impact people who become toxic, and it spills over into relationships. Many times the toxic person has to look out. If they grew up in a toxic family, sometimes they have to look outside the house they were raised in, or sometimes they have to look out the family period they're connected to just to see a decent relationship because they don't know what one looks like. If you grew up in a house where they fought like cats and dogs, that's toxic. If you grew up in a house, where mom and dad routinely cheated, that's toxic. If you grew up in a house where people ran each other down and nobody really had each other's backs unless somebody from the outside in was trying to destroy them, then we want to rally together, family, that's toxic. If you grew up in a situation where you were always being judged and misjudged by your actions, that's a form of toxicity. People have a fear of intimacy because of toxicity. And it makes sense. The people that you have been intimately connected to, I'm not talking about romantically now, but intimately connected to genetically, romantically, in terms of friendship. If you have been connected to toxic people and they have attempted to destroy you or they have wounded you, then again, you're going to take these wounds and replicate it in patterns in your own relationship. Sad thing about a toxic family that I mentioned here is that love many times is masked. It's masked by manipulation and emotional abuse. Manipulation and emotional abuse. Listen, love is not really just about gifts. There's a lot of children who would rather have had time and hugs and support than a bunch of trinkets, than a bunch of toys, than a bunch of playthings that money could buy. And I want you to understand that sometimes if you grow up in a toxic situation, there's people always using people, meaning, okay, meaning that if you're a son or a daughter or however you fit in that, relationship structure, a cousin, a niece, a nephew, if the person that you're dealing with is toxic, most of the time they're self-centered. It's all about them and what they can get out of it. So they constantly have an agenda. You think it's love, but they assign you to do something, or they interact and deal with you in such a way where they can get something out of it. So they're constantly moving you like a piece on the chessboard. I need you to hear me. I need you to hear me. Sometimes you think their presence is about you, but their presence is about them getting what they want out of the situation. All right. So if they didn't just visit you because they were concerned about you, they visited you because they didn't have money to go on vacation. They needed to get away. Watch this. So they came to see you and dropped snide remarks while they were there. They were critical while they were there. They undermined you while they were there. Am I making it plain enough for anybody here? Am I getting any likes and hearts? Because I'm not on Facebook now to see that. It's masked by manipulation. All right. It's masked by emotional abuse. And what it does is it distorts what love is. Do you realize I have seen situations where people, number one, if they're not fighting, they don't think the person loves them. If they're not raising their voices, they don't think the person is into them. It's like there was a need because of what they saw, what was modeled before them, that infected them. There's a need to be abrasive. There's a need to be aggressive. I need you to hear me. It's like, if you're not angry with me, you're not into me. It's like, I got to find reasons. And I need to make sure you're still with me. This is the way you show that you care. Watch this. By our passion that's demonstrated in our anger, or by our passion that's demonstrated in our disagreements. Watch this. And then, we make it all good by having makeup sex, or we make it all good by giving each other rewards. But it's a cycle. So then they're going to come back to that and start an argument for nothing. They're going to come back to that and use that same methodology. Am I making any sense? It's toxicity. It's like peace is not inherent in them. They don't know what peace is in a relationship, because all that love has been masked by manipulations. It's been masked by the hijacking of emotions. They don't know what good quality tools are to make a relationship solid, to make a relationship last. They only know toxicity. They only know drama. They only know melodrama. They only know soap opera type stuff. That's all they know. So that's all they participate in. When they get angry, they only know how to show they behind. They only know when they get angry because they toxic, they don't know how to talk to you on level 1 or 2 calmly, so they won't stir up wrath. They're always at level 6, 7, or 8 when they approach you. It's toxicity, flying off the handle for no apparent reason with you. It is toxicity. It is the way that they have functioned in a toxic world. It is the way that they have navigated and maneuvered through a toxic lifestyle. This is the role that they've played. And these are the skills, the coping skills. These are the navigational skills that they have used to survive. They don't know how toxic they are until they come in contact with a person who's totally opposite of them, not toxic, don't have the level of toxicity they have at all. They think that everybody's supposed to act like this and everybody's supposed to be like this. Am I making any sense? Toxic people, hear me, always think like a narcissist, in that if you do something good for me, number one, it's probably because you don't really mean it. And number two, it's probably because you got an ulterior motive. Listen, if you carry these laws and these ideas and this philosophy, these toxic, this toxic philosophy, this toxic paradigm into relationships, this is why some of y'all got 10, 15, 20 relationships under your belt, because you're toxic or you're dealing with somebody that's toxic. They don't have good communication skills. They don't watch this. They don't have good conflict resolution skills. Their conflict resolution skills are turn up the music, we get in each other's face, we get physical. Come on now. We cuss somebody out. I need you to hear me. It's toxic to the core. And like I said to you, what I have found out is that this is the kind of stuff that's in our churches, in our centers of faith, places of faith. It exists. It is replete in them, in these people. Hear me. Some of y'all think you're looking at a demon. You ain't looking at a demon. You're just looking at a toxic person who grew up in a toxic environment. This spills over into the relationships. And this is why the relationships don't last. This is why the relationships don't work. Because listen to me, the ecosystem, hear me, they grew up in was toxic. Hear me real clearly. And they'll choke when they get out of that toxic environment. So it's just like what we have, oxygen, carbon dioxide. There are traces of hydrogen in our atmosphere, so forth and so on. When we go to other planets that don't have the correct traces for our body, we have to wear an artificial apparatus that we breathe, artificial concentrations of what's in our atmosphere. So we have a tank. If you go to Mars or the moon, we can't just jump around, walk around and breathe that atmosphere. So we can't watch this. We can't naturally survive in that atmosphere. Number one, because it's not attuned to our natural habitat. And this is the way toxic people are. When they get in a relationship that's not toxic, or with a person that's not really toxic, they start choking. They start feeling insecure. They start feeling like something is missing. They start feeling like something is lacking. They start feeling like something is wrong. They start getting paranoia. If you're not looking over their shoulder, micromanaging them, they think you don't care. If you're not overly aggressive with them, they think you too passive. They think that, you're not into them. I need y'all to hear what I'm saying today. Hear what I'm saying today. It is toxicity, watch this, that manifests now in several psychological pathologies that I'm not going to even try to name today. I got a counselor watching me on YouTube. He can name more of this stuff than I can, but it will manifest in aberrant, abhorrent behaviors. And it's all because folk are just toxic. So they start choking. They can't breathe when they start encountering a person who didn't come from that ecosystem. And you try and pull them into it, and they start what? Next thing you know, they kicking and screaming like they dying. And in a sense, they are dying because that part of them that's been swimming in crap and trash and junk don't know what clear water looks like. It doesn't know what it's like to be in a truly clear, free, toxic free, pollutant free, smog free environment. Wow. I'm gonna have to pause there because I'm already a few minutes over time. Am I making any sense to anybody here? This is the impact that being connected to toxic people, growing up in toxic families, growing up in toxic environments, being a part of toxic churches and toxic religious systems and all this other kind of stuff. I got 7, so I'm gonna get the other 4 next week, and then I'm gonna give you your remedies. I'm gonna start with your solutions. Look like I'm gonna have to do this in 4 parts, 2 more parts after today. Okay, but these are some of the symptoms. This is how people can be impacted and are impacted. And sometimes we don't know how deeply ingrained this stuff is in us until we get in an environment, watch this, and we start reproducing or replicating these same kind of toxic behaviors. And sometimes we grab a few of our own and add a few of our own to the mix that we have drafted or adopted from people who had influence on us, or we have maladapted to again draft or graft these things into our own life. We embody them, and then we become it. We become a living, breathing, toxic, fume individual or person. Lord have mercy. Last but not least, and I'm going to shut it down. There was something I had on my mind I wanted to say. Last but not least, one of our objectives is to disconnect you from this toxicity, to show you how to deal with this toxicity. All right. And the reason why, watch this, the reason why many times people have a difficult time disconnecting from this toxicity when it's necessary is because your built-in toxicity has learned how to tolerate, and as the counselor is saying to me on YouTube, accommodate toxic thinking. It's all you know, even though you might be doing better. You're coming out. Some of you are listening to me, and you've done your own inner work. Some of you have been to counseling, and you've done other things, and you're much better. But there's still traces of that left, to the point that you say it's love, but it's not really love that's keeping you in this environment where this stuff is constantly being inflicted on you. It is because the toxic thinking that's still a part of you feels a sense of normality and some semblance of normalcy. Watch this. And it fears being a fish out of water. It fears feeling like it's a fish out of water. Watch this. Or I'm going to use a different illustration. It fears being a fish who has to leave the aquarium, that has to leave the small fish bowl that's filled to the brim with toxicity and swim in an ocean. It's afraid of the ocean. It's afraid of a blue ocean. It's used to tap water that's being treated. I need y'all to catch what I'm saying here. So it is a part that is still in your brain that is toxic, that feels this. This is where it's, I had to tolerate this. This is what I'm just supposed to deal with. This is this is what this is just the way it is. What is that? There's nothing else. That's all there is to life. This all there is to this relationship. This is all there is to me. That's that part of you that is being contaminated by that toxicity that causes you to rationalize and reason that there isn't a better alternative than just feeling bad, feeling shame, feeling down, feeling dysfunctional, even though you might be enlightening, doing better. But that part of you still feels obligated to stay connected because it knows normalcy in that connectedness. And watch this, it still is partially defining itself by being connected to those streams of people that are toxic. Lord have mercy on my soul. I got to stop here. I got to stop. Let me say a prayer for you. Did you enjoy this tonight? Is it resonating with you? Is it speaking to you? Is it speaking to you? Is it speaking to you? Is it empowering you? Is it uplifting you? I need you to see the symptomology. I need you to recognize the sign. Some people, this is why some people are so doggone sensitive. You grew up in an environment where you always had to defend yourself. So you can't take constructive criticism because you're in defensive mode. But why are you in defensive mode? You grew up in a war, or you're connected to a situation. Listen, I feel led to tell some of y'all this. Some of you all who are watching me right now, you may not have been diagnosed, but some of y'all are dealing with post-traumatic, stress disorder, PTSD. Some of you all, your environment was so intense and so toxic and so doggone abusive and so twisting, it twisted you up. It berated you. It assaulted you. It violated you. It attacked you. It almost killed you and destroyed you destroyed you, and you have some post-traumatic stress disorder. But I'm here to tell you there are solutions. I'm here to tell you there's a way up and there's a way out. I'm here to tell you that the best version of you, a better version of you, is listening while I'm talking, and it's open for the guidance to emerge, to step out of the skin you're in into a new dimension of you. My God, I sense that so strong. A new dimension of you that is going places. A new dimension of you that is going to elevate you. A new dimension of you that's going to empower you to levels you've never been before. And I'm going to say this, some of you all could rise if you cut these toxic ties. And we'll say it again. Some of you all would rise if you would just cut these toxic ties. Last but not least, some of you all are going to rise when you cut psychologically and spiritually and physically these toxic ties. You think it's God holding you back or the enemy. It's not. It's you and toxicity that's holding you back. But when you cut the ties, you're going to rise. Oh, I felt that one. I felt that one in my shanana. Glory to God. When you cut the ties, these toxic ties, you're going to rise. I'm going to finish giving you the 4 in terms of impact, then I'm going to start giving you solutions, coping techniques, coping mechanisms, and principles you can use to help you to deal with toxic families. I'm getting ready to pray, and I hope that you show your love today by giving whatever offering that comes to your heart to give tonight. I don't know, for some reason I saw $7.77, but you just sow and plant whatever you want to. This is seminar type stuff, but I love you enough that I got to share it with you. Come on, I'm going to pray. You came because the message piqued you and intrigued you. You came, some of you, because you know you're dealing with some stuff in your own life, whether it's your present or your past. This word has been propagated to you purposely to empower, to elevate, to put you in a position where you will conquer and dominate and master any toxicity, any dysfunction, anything that is contradictory to the real divine God created you. Almighty, I just thank you and praise you for those who are watching me in this moment and in this hour. Great things are happening within them now. The captives are being set free. Blinded eyes, blinded minds, blinded hearts are being opened, and the captives, I declare and decree, are set free. Thank you, Lord, that we're coming out of toxicity. Thank you, Lord, that we're dealing with stuff in us that is really not productive for us and to us. Thank you, Lord. We are shedding our old for the new. Thank you. We're leaving one universe and traveling to the next. And we just bless you and praise you for wholeness that has already begun in these viewers and listeners. We thank you that it is done. In Yeshua's name, by his power, his name, his way, his consciousness. It is so. And so it is. Oh, I feel so good. Anybody got one question before I get off tonight? I'll take a question if you got one before we get off. How you feeling? I saw some of your feedback earlier. How y'all feeling? Let me see here. How y'all feeling? Yeah, the counselor said picking the same person with a different name. That's awesome. That is so true. So true. How y'all feeling? Come on, talk to me. How y'all feeling before we go? Somebody said very enlightened. That's Linda Nelson. Love you, Linda. Appreciate you. Anyone else? Somebody said feeling enlightened. It's my Krista. Wonderful, wonderful. Anybody else? Anybody else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Thank you so much. Your feedback is much appreciated. Somebody on YouTube said good with a T on the end. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Appreciate y'all. Adore you so much. Motivational speaker Gary Newsom says, feeling empowered. Coach Newsom. Wonderful. Brenda, you can catch it in replay if you want to. Thank you for tuning in, Miss Brenda Harris. You can catch it in replay if you want to. Thank you so much. Love you too, Linda. My sister in love is on tonight. She said, feeling awesome. And Hillary says, we feeling good. All right. I'm going to release you today with the Shalom blessing. If you came on late, when we get off, just restart it. Watch it from beginning to end. And even when you get off, if you got on here tonight, family, and you didn't share this, shame on you. I need you to help a brother. Share every time you get on. Refer this teaching to somebody. I know it's going to uplift them and it's going to empower them. I'll be back with part 3 on next week. Don't y'all miss it. And don't forget to take advantage of the giving opportunities at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for supporting me on this journey and helping me to do this in a way that's going to inform you and empower you. Shalom, shalom. Peace, wholeness, and prosperity. Nothing missing and nothing broken. It is so, and so it is. Enjoy your evening or whatever time of day it is you're watching me. I'm Dr. A.G. Green Sr. signing off. You've been watching Spiritual Awakening with A.G. Green Sr. Love you. Have a great one.